Welcome back to another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we are breaking down districts 5 and 6, week in, week out. Brandon Baney, joined once again by Sean Kane, IdahoSports.com broadcaster, also Century High School tennis coach. Sean, before we hopped on to record the podcast, we're recording this on Tuesday night, May 10th. So we have, we could have some breaking news as we go along on the Prepcast tonight. Lots of baseball and softball action is happening as we speak. But you were busy today as well with tennis districts.
Yeah, we started today. So I was, outside from about 8 to about 6 today, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I mean, it's not warm outside, but I think the district action is heating up,
But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good. Like we've talked about, my district's only 2 teams, but so you're playing you're starting out playing the other team, and then however it goes, you might be playing your own team. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic when those second, third rounds kind of happen, people playing their own team, and or like if my 2 players are playing each other, there's not a whole lot of coaching that goes on. Then we're just kind of letting the players play. So kind of interesting, but it went really well. Everyone's in good shape, and we hope to qualify like around 12 players tomorrow would be I think the ultimate goal, and I think that will happen. And yeah, I like getting more than the track team is really my goal.
I like it. A little spring sports
Why not?
competition.
Why not?
Okay, so 8 to 6 for just 2 teams. If there were more than 2 teams, would it make for a longer day, or
yeah, I mean, you'd have to use more venues, and with more people there's more matches, right? With only 2 teams, you have to wait until a match is done for your other match to happen. There's no really flow to it other than this has to happen before this. With more teams, you can get some other matches going on like earlier or whatever. But yeah, I mean, most places it runs the same. You basically have a double elimination draw with a consolation. So most places are running about the same thing. You're just limited to how far you go with only 2 teams, because you have to wait for that other person to go. There's no other team dropping in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can easily get behind schedule if one. All it takes is one match and you're way off course.
Yeah, and we had AP testing too, so we had to wait for some AP testers to get done before they came out. But I mean, we were relatively on schedule even with that, so that was pretty good. A couple went long, of course. Always the first ones go long, and then sets up the rest of the day. But yeah, not too bad.
So you mentioned the goal is to get 12 to state. With it only being a 2-team district, it's hard to have the numbers to compete like for state championships. But
Yeah,
is the possibility of coming home with a trophy a possibility?
I think our boys. Well, we're gonna have a lot of boys and a mixed team that's almost placed last year. So we have a freshman, Daniel McGee, who's really solid. He's ranked 8th in the state out of everyone right now with the tennis reporting rate ranking, which is probably good as the Max Prep ranking. But he hasn't lost a match all season. So if he could place, the mix could place, and then we'll probably more than likely have couple boys doubles up there that could get some points. The boys could be looking at a trophy for sure. There'll be there's a lot of parity, I think, this year in 4A. I think BK is pretty strong, but some of those other schools in Boise are bringing strong teams too, as well as a few strong teams out of East Idaho. With Bonneville has a really good boys doubles, and so does Blackfoot. So there's a lot kind of up in the air. I don't think anything's for certain at this point.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, and good luck to Century and Pocatello, both as they compete and try to advance to state and make a little noise, maybe on some individual levels. It's just so hard team wise to compete with.
Yeah. It'll be hard for Southeast Idaho, period, because District 6 only gets 2 out of 4 teams, right? So only the top 2 go out of there. And looking at their brackets, it's all over the place. From all 4 teams are going to have a couple from each, which is just not going to be enough unless you win both events or whatever. But it comes down to winning championships because you get 14 points for the championship, and that makes or breaks the difference. So you could have two people and win if they win the championships, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So we will keep an eye on that. And state tennis, of course, the same weekend as every other state event in the spring.
The hotels will be kind of full in Boise, if you were wondering.
Can I ask you real quick, and then we'll get into baseball and softball. But let me ask you real quick. In the fall, because I'm still kind of new to Idaho, and you've been here a long time, Sean. In the fall, we kind of split up the sports. Each has its own championship weekend, right? It's soccer, and then it's cross country, and then volleyball, and then finally you've got football. Like state championship football Saturday. Why do they shoehorn everything into one weekend for spring sports?
I think that's a question that's been brought up more times than I can think of. And I remember one year too, it was everything: baseball, softball, track, tennis, lacrosse, and it was like Boise State's graduation. So literally the closest hotel was like Ontario, Oregon or something, and people were staying there to go to graduation because they didn't know the state sport. I don't know. We've asked to move it because the problem for us is when all three categories are there, 3A, 4, and 5A, there's not enough indoor courts for bad weather. And that was an issue last year. 5A didn't even have indoor courts, and like mixed doubles didn't even finish their bracket, which that's not what you want at state. You want to finish it. You want everyone to, finish where they need to finish. And so we've said, why can't we do one here, and maybe this weekend or that weekend? And I couldn't tell you that answer. That's above my pay grade, but everyone's like, why? The only one that doesn't do it is golf. Golf is like Monday.
Right. Still in that week though. It's still in that championship week.
Yeah. It's and I think it's just, they don't really have the right, like, end of year, kind of how the end of the year to gear the end of the year. Cause if you'd stagger start them too, right? Like start one a week earlier, then one would finish earlier and one would finish later. Like if you staggered the sports a little bit, because it's an issue for just facilities in general. Right? If the weather's bad, softball, baseball, cheerleading, everyone, wrestling and basketball might still be going. Everyone wants to get in somewhere to work out or work as a team, and there's only so many spaces. Tracks running the stairs and the halls and things. So if it was staggered a little bit, I think it would help a lot. But I think at the end of the year they just want to be done, like the students and teachers.
Yeah, it's just it's hard for parents. If you've got a son that runs track and a daughter that plays softball, or you're probably having to pick and choose, and that's too bad.
Yeah, I've got a couple golfers, so it's worked out pretty well. Luckily, one of my girls singles, Lauren Assad, she was on Century's golf team that just won districts yesterday. And so she'll probably just be in Boise all week because golf is up there. And then, by the time she comes back, we're already leaving again. So she's busy going to be working it out with her teachers for a little vacay for sports, so.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's not a bad place to be for a week. The Boise metro area, that's for sure. All right, let's dive into these baseball and softball district tournament brackets. Some teams have already wrapped up bids to state. Some are still trying to fight their way into state. Some will have to go via a play-in game. And I figured we'd start with softball, just because that's where a lot of the more recent action seems to be happening. And so if you're watching the video version of this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel or Facebook page, I'm going to share my screen. And so you'll be able to see the brackets on the screen and you can follow along with us. If you're listening to the audio only version of this podcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, you can still view those brackets. They're right there on the homepage, district softball, district baseball, and you can follow along that way as well. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, I've got a lot of tabs open here. So
he's got them all memorized anyways, but if
I do, it's all about finding the right one though. That's baseball. And
while you look at it, I found it interesting how some baseball have like a typical bracket, right? And then some baseball have series where they play a
Yes.
3-game series, which I think has become interesting with pitch counts. It looks like so.
Oh yes, we'll get to that. We will definitely get to that. That's been the big story this week, certainly. Okay, softball. Here is the 5A High Country Conference. This is District 5 and 6. Highland was the 1 seed. They defeated Idaho Falls today. This tournament started tonight, Sean. So Highland with the 14-0 win over 5th seeded Idaho Falls. Idaho Falls then dropped into a loser out game where they lost to 4th seeded Madison 12-10. Rigby, the 3 seed, beat Madison 6-4. And this is that weird 5-team bracket where the 2 seed gets a first round bye. And it actually worked out for Rigby to have a game under their belts, because look at this score, Sean, in an 8-inning game. This went extra innings.
Wow.
Rigby beat Thunder Ridge 17-16. A slugfest.
Not a defensive battle.
And
they say that's the interesting thing, right? Maybe Rigby's best pitcher wasn't going the first game and went more the second game, but softball pitching is just so key when you go those back-to-back games. I've noticed.
I would be inclined to say, based upon the 17-16 score, I would say Rigby probably threw their best pitcher in that first game, that 6-4 game. Right.
Yeah.
For sure. But so now Thunder Ridge, all of a sudden, the 2 seed, they have to turn around and play Madison on Thursday, and that's going to be a loser out contest. And meanwhile, Highland will battle Rigby, and the winner of that will move into the championship, and that will also be on Thursday. So Highland, no surprise, they were the favorites coming in. Marissa Mauger, Kearns is also a great power hitter. That's a good 1-2 punch for the Rams. So
yeah, no surprises there. Just the bottom half is a little interesting, but Thunder Ridge still has a chance to get there with the bracket too. So, and they're going to take 2 to state. So the bottom will be very exciting to watch, I think.
Yeah, if we get a Rigby Thunder Ridge rematch, oh boy, that could be something. All right, let's move to 4A softball. District 5 we'll start with. And this is where, as we're recording this, we haven't gotten any scores yet, but I'm sure by the time you're watching this or listening to this, you will have seen. Now, Sean, you were texting a little earlier. We think Century beat Preston?
Yes, I think from Greg Woods at the Idaho State Journal, Century beat Preston, and then Century lost to Pocatello like 10-3 in the later afternoon game is what I got from him. Which I think is pretty accurate. I don't have the score for the Preston game.
But Pocatello moving into that championship, which means Century and Preston will play each other again on Thursday in a loser-out battle. Winner would play Pocatello in the championship. And again, this all happened today, like just a couple hours ago. So this district was interesting. Century has kind of controlled the district for so long. But like we saw in volleyball and in basketball this year for Century, they lost so much to graduation. It's a young crop of athletes that are still trying to figure out the varsity game a little bit.
Yeah, Mandy Daniels, she's coached for a long time in softball. She's from Twin Falls. She's coached there. She's coached around here. It's her first year as a head coach at Century, and she's done a really good job. But I will tell you, the word is Pocatello's got a lot of good young pitchers that have just been doing a great job for them. And it's the same thing I see. You play the same person so many times, it just becomes, you could win here, they could win there. It becomes that kind of windmill of playing the same team over and over again. It's going to happen, but if you play someone 10 times, you're probably going to win once, kind of deal.
And here's where Pocatello has the advantage on Thursday, because Century and Preston will play each other Thursday, and then the winner of that will have to immediately turn around and play Pocatello, which means they're probably throwing their number 2 pitcher, whereas Pocatello will have their 1 pitcher still to go. So big advantage for the Thunder there. And again, that will be on Thursday. Let's stay in 4A, District 6. This started tonight as well. Top seed Blackfoot defeated 5th seeded Shelley 13-3. And then a very interesting back and forth game between the 3 and 4 seeds. Bonneville did beat Skyline. Skyline knocked off Bonneville 11-10. So you have the 4 seed Skyline moving on. They are playing Hillcrest. I checked right before we started to record. Hillcrest was up 10-1. That game hadn't gone final yet. So it looks like, Hillcrest and Blackfoot probably going to meet in that undefeated semifinal, a 1 versus a 2. Shelley, the 5 seed, then turned around and knocked out 3 seed Bonneville. So Bonneville went 2 and out. They're done as the 3 seed. Shelley wins 15-5, and Shelley more than likely is going to play Skyline on Wednesday, tomorrow night. So
yeah, when you're the higher seed, and sometimes in those softball brackets, if you don't win that first game, it can make it tough sledding, because you play 2 games in a day. It seems like on most of them, they're going to play their first round and second round on that first day. So very difficult.
And I've been impressed with, obviously Blackfoot is talented, but Hillcrest is also a team that's really impressed me at times this year. And so that'll be an interesting matchup, I think, between Hillcrest and Blackfoot. But we will have to wait and see. That will be tomorrow, Wednesday as well. A lot of games and a lot of days here because of the weather. It kind of pushed everything back a day, and now everything's all compressed. But so that's what's going on at the 4A level. Let's check in on 3A. This all wrapped up last week or on Monday, I guess. So Marsh Valley wins the district, joining their baseball team at state. I don't think this surprised anybody. Coach Van Sickle, and that name may be familiar to District 5 fans. She is from Highland High School, and I believe she has a younger sister that's still playing softball for Highland. But
she played at CSI, maybe, or
yeah, I can't remember where.
Basketball or softball there, maybe off the top of my head. Yeah,
Kenzie Van Sickle is the coach for Marsh Valley, and I think it's Maddie Van Sickle is at Highland. Either way, congratulations to Marsh Valley. They never really were tested. They beat Snake River twice, 8-3 and 10-5, and now they will have a chance at state. Way to go.
Yeah. It's the baseball and softball in Marsh Valley are very strong this year.
Yes. Very competitive between those two athletic bunches. That's for sure. Let's look at 3A District 6. If I can. Which tab is it? Maybe I forgot to open that one. This is really exciting podcasting here. Okay, let's jump to 2A. Right here. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
3A District 6. This is one of those district brackets you talked about, Sean, where it's not really a bracket. It's more of a best of 3 game series. So South Fremont won the league. They got a bye. Sugar was the 2 seed, Sugar Salem. Teton was the 3 seed, and Teton was a very, very young team. They had to play almost exclusively freshmen this year. So Sugar beat Teton 14-4, 14-2, won the best of 3 game series there. And then the first game of their championship series with South Fremont was earlier today, and South Fremont won that game 8-7. And so now, if South Fremont wins again, then they win the district. Sugar needs to win to force the winner-take-all game 3. But either way, a close competitive game, which has to give Sugar Salem some confidence.
Yeah, and again, it kind of seems to be the case where maybe getting to play a little bit early and not sitting kind of gets you guys fired up, and you can get the bat swinging a little better. I mean, I don't know. I always liked playing before, but yeah, I like the 3 game series. I think it makes it exciting for fans. I'm sure parents don't like it, but for fans, that's pretty cool. You're going to get that opportunity for maybe a 3rd game, and you probably really feel like you won that district championship, right? If you win the series, I feel like that's a solid feeling to have.
Yeah, I don't know. South and Sugar are probably tired of seeing each other.
True. I know about that too. When there's not only 3 teams.
Right. So we'll keep an eye on that series as it progresses. But South Fremont does lead the best of 3 championship series 1-0. And finally, the 2A level, District 5, Malad, the defending 2A state champion Malad Dragons. If you thought there was going to be a drop-off because they lost so much to graduation, well, you'd be mistaken. Coach Shao doing a great job again this year at Malad. They have advanced to the championship game. They defeated Westside in the undefeated semifinal tonight, 11-0. And now Westside had to turn around and play in the back half of the bracket. Soda Springs and Bear Lake still alive as well. They played earlier today. We haven't gotten those scores yet, but I think the story here is Malad is going to be back at state more than likely and ready to defend their title.
Yeah, and they've had a really good season. I mean, their record shows it, and yeah, right back. They'll be right back in the saddle at state if they get through this.
Now, second place does get the chance to advance to a play-in game. It's kind of obscured on the bottom here, but right here. And they would play the champion of District 4, either Declo or Wendell. And that's Declo is definitely the team to beat over there. So the West Side, possibly Bear Lake, has a chance to challenge their way into state also. So we'll keep an eye on the 2A proceedings. Malad will play in the championship game tomorrow at 3:30, opponent to be determined. And the Nuclear Conference, District 6, up in the 2A ranks. West Jefferson wins the championship today over North Fremont, the 3 seed, 10-0. North Fremont. How about that semifinal? 3 seed North Fremont over the 2 seed Firth, 18-2.
Yeah.
And then Firth turns around and almost loses to Salmon, a first-year program, and a 5 seed. They barely win that game, 18-16 today to stay alive. So, Firth's still in there. 2 teams get to go to state. So there's still a chance for Firth. And of course, Chalice, Mackey, and Ryrie are also battling in that losers bracket. But the big story here is West Jefferson, which took second place last year. They lost to Malad in an all East Idaho final in the championship. They advanced to state, and North Fremont only has to win 1 game to get to state, where Firth would have to win 2 potentially. So,
yep. And you could see maybe West Jefferson and Malad meeting back up again the way it pans out here.
Yeah, last year going into state softball 2A, the 3 best teams were Malad, West J, St. Mary's. I think it's lining up the exact same way this year. Last year, they all kind of ended up on the same side of the bracket. This year, more than likely, that won't happen because of Max Preps. But
it worked one time.
Right.
80% of the time.
Yes. West J, I think they didn't get to play Malad, I don't think, but West J to me, I think, is the team to beat in 2A softball. Torgerson, their pitcher, is phenomenal, and they've got really good hitters throughout the lineup. So keep an eye on West J in 2A softball. All right, let's move from 2A up to 5A in baseball. Let's just stick in the Nuclear Conference. This is baseball we're talking about now. Firth is the 1 seed. They beat Salmon, the 4 seed, 12-1. And then in the other opening round game, one of my favorite teams, the Chalice Mackey River Cats, the co-op in baseball. They're the 2 seed. They beat North Fremont 4-1. And so they played today, and we haven't heard final scores yet, but Firth and Chalice Mackey in the undefeated semifinal. Salmon played North Fremont, and the Huskies won that game 8-3 to keep their season alive. This district gets 2 teams to state, and I really think it's Firth and Chalice Mackey are the 2 best teams. North Fremont, I wouldn't put anything past them. They are a fairly new baseball program as well. I believe it was either last year or 2 years ago was their first year of having baseball in some time. So they're kind of a newcomer to the baseball scene.
Yeah, you could see I could see North Fremont kind of coming back. They kind of played some close game with Chalice Mackey, but it'll be interesting to see, being in a new program. Maybe you just don't know, like, the pressure. That's sometimes a nice thing. Like, freshmen just don't know like what's going on, and they just go out and get it. Sometimes being a new program, that can be helpful too.
Well, and North Fremont always has good athletes, no matter what the sport is. And so
that's true. Yeah,
they're gonna do just fine. So, but really, I like Firth to make some noise at state possibly, and it'd be cool if Chalice Mackey got to state, I think, or even North Fremont. I think that would be a great story as well. District 5 in the 2A ranks, the Southeast Idaho Conference. Hey, just like on the softball side, congratulations to the Malad Dragons. They won the district championship over Bear Lake today. That was a 1 versus a 2. They won that game 9-1. But Bear Lake Bears fans, don't fret. Bear Lake has a chance to advance to state via the play-in game. They will play the champion of District 4. It's going to be either Wendell or Declo. They were playing a best-of-3 championship series, and they each won a game. And the deciding game, I think, was tonight. I haven't heard yet who they would play, but Malad getting to state. Coach Clark does a great job with the Dragons.
Yeah, it's Malad has done really well. I think they'll be happy to be in the state tournament again and looking to make some noise.
And let's be clear, when I talk about going to state and making some noise, I could see them a top 3 finish.
Yeah,
I think in terms of the 2A state championship, Nampa Christian is so dominant. They've won.
That's a tough. It's 2A and 3A. When you get to state, man, it's just every team's really tough. It's hard to go and compete sometimes, but
yeah, Nampa Christian in baseball is kind of like Lapway in basketball, where I think it's just kind of a foregone conclusion. I mean, Nampa Christian has won like 15 of the last 16 2A baseball titles.
Like Soda Springs and cross country, where they won like 12 in a row or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what they do. So Malad can get to state and maybe make a little noise. We'll have to wait and see. Let's move on to 3A baseball, District 5. Marsh Valley is the team that I think is definitely capable of getting on a run and winning this thing. They won state 3 years ago, and then we had the COVID year 2 years ago. So there was no season. And then last year, Marsh Valley came in as the defending champs, and they were knocked out in the first round on a walk-off home run by Weiser, the eventual champs.
Wow.
So this is a group that's motivated and focused and ready to get back to state. I mean, look at these scores from districts. They beat Snake River 2 times, 11-1 and 15-1. Marsh Valley is going to be one of a handful of championship contenders at state. And then Snake River has a chance to play their way into state. They will play South Fremont in a play-in game. And that is because in our other bracket here, South Fremont, the 1 seed up in District 6, actually lost to second-seeded Sugar Salem in that best-of-3 game championship series. Sugar won the first game 15-2. South Fremont won the second game 12-2, and then Sugar won the winner-take-all game last Saturday 8-6. So the Digger's going to dig, man. They just always find a way to get to state, it seems like. And
there's always a Sugar Salem rep there, right?
That's right. So congratulations to Sugar Salem and Marsh Valley for advancing to state. South Fremont and Snake River will now play in a state tournament play-in game, but it's one of 2. So the winner of that Snake River South Fremont game will then have to play the second place team from District 4 also. So they got to win 2 play-in games to get to state. So it's a definitely difficult road. But we'll see.
When you only have those 2 team conferences, though, it's kind of where 3 teams kind of where you're at, right?
Yep, unfortunately. And I kind of lean South Fremont in this play-in game with the Snake River, just a little bit. I lean South Fremont there. So,
all right,
that's what's going on in 3A. All right, 4A, District 5, the Pocatello Thunder. Your district champions. They defeated Preston today, the 1-2, 13-3 at Hallowell Park. So Pocatello wins the district. They are headed to state. And for Preston, their season comes to an end. Preston had some really good pitchers this year. They just didn't have enough offensively. And now the question is, how does Pocatello stack up against some of those other 4A juggernauts like Twin Falls, like Bishop Kelly, like Middleton? I think it might be tough for Pocatello, but we'll see.
Yeah, I believe they were maybe just outside the top 10 in max preps. Pocatello was off the top of my head, but it looks like Middleton is kind of running the show up there, and Bishop Kelly's always good at baseball, and it'll be tough sledding.
But awesome for them to get to state.
Yeah, definitely.
Pocatello's got a really good baseball tradition. I feel like they've got a good program there with Coach Benavidez.
Yeah, Vinny always has really good hats. Like I always like their baseball hats. He's got a good hat guy.
My cousin told me once he was an All-American running back in college at the NAIA level, and he said 90% of high school sports is looking good. So
yeah, I mean. I always think they have good I went to Pocatello High School, so they had some of the old kind of logo hats that I really, really liked. I may have not gotten one.
That's a call out. That is if you've got one of those pokey baseball hats, send it to Sean Kane.
There we go.
We'll beg for swag. Okay. District 6 High Country Conference, and this is where the talk was this week, Sean. So they also subscribe to the best of 3 game series. So the way it works is the 1 seed Bonneville plays the 4 seed Hillcrest in a best of 3 game series, and Bonneville wins both games 10-3 and 13-0. And then you've got the 2 seed Skyline against the 3 seed Blackfoot, also in a best of 3 game series. Well, Skyline won the first game 4-3. Blackfoot won the second game 11-5. And then in the winner take all game last Friday, Skyline won the game, thought they had advanced to the district championship series, started making their preparations. And then, and I got to give credit to Eric Moon from Local News 8 up in Idaho Falls, the TV station up there, had the story come out last night that Blackfoot actually replacing Skyline in that championship series because Skyline didn't follow the pitch count rules. They had a pitcher that had met his limit, and they continued to pitch him, and Blackfoot filed an appeal and won that appeal. And so now Blackfoot advanced to the district championship against Bonneville, where Bonneville won both those games actually earlier tonight, 4-1 and 6-2. So Bonneville advances to state. Congratulations. But Blackfoot still has a chance to earn their way to state as well. They're going to have to play the 3rd place team from District 3, which is going to be either Middleton, Bishop Kelly, or Columbia. And all 3 of those teams are really, really good. I don't see Blackfoot pulling it off. But talk about this controversy with Skyline and Blackfoot. We don't, the pitch count rules are there for a reason, and very rarely do we see teams violate them.
Well, it's real interesting too. I was talking to a baseball coach the other day, and I'm like, how do you do these series, because you have pitch counts? If you just play one game and you're going to play another game, like a whole nother game, it's a little easier to plan that. And he said for the series, they sometimes just don't use someone like the whole time, or switch, or have so many innings or so many pitches, and so it can become in the series a more of a counting those number of pitches thing. And I think it went to the appeal, and they appealed it, and they found that they violated it. So I don't know how they count it. I guess someone writes it down on paper, but very rarely do you ever see any of the violations. And the pitch count isn't that old either. It's still pretty new to Idaho. They didn't have it for a while, and but it's the first violation that led to a forfeit that I can think of that's come out.
So here are the official pitch count rules, and I'll share these up on the screen as well so people can see this. This is from an email I got. But here's what it says. It says, no pitcher may throw more than 110 pitches in a game or day if the team is playing a doubleheader, which they weren't, right? As far as I can tell, it was 3 games. Or no, they did. They played a doubleheader on Thursday. Yes. Yeah. Okay. A pitcher will be allowed to finish a batter only when they hit the maximum limits during an at-bat. So if you're at 110 and let's say you're facing somebody and you get up to 115, they'll let you finish the at-bat, but then you have to leave. And then here's where the rule, I think, for Skyline comes into play. A pitcher cannot throw 3 consecutive days, no matter how many pitches they have combined to throw the previous 2 days. And subsection of that, no varsity pitcher can throw more than 100 pitches over 2 consecutive days. So I think what happened was somebody pitched Thursday, and then they turned around and pitched him on Friday, but he went over that 100 pitch count. So that is, I think, where Skyline violated the rule, and it's right there. It's clear. Coaches, usually, you walk into Costco and you see the person that looks at your card and they've got the little clicker
counting the items.
Yeah. Well, this is when you first walk in, they have the little pitch clicker to count how many people come in the store. That's what baseball teams use. They have a little clicker, and usually somebody on staff, usually the pitching coach, is responsible for clicking that and looking at it and saying, okay. But you got to have communication on the coaching staff as well. And you have to know how many pitches your particular player is at, right? The umpire doesn't know. He's not going to stop and say, okay, now you've thrown your, it's up to each team to police that. And good on Blackfoot for being aware of the situation and appealing that and winning that appeal. I guess Skyline appealed the forfeit and lost the appeal. That's the way I should word it. But those are the pitch count rules. And I don't know how long have they been in Idaho? I think they've been in place since I've lived here, but again, that's not very long. So
yeah, I would, how long have you been here?
3 years.
I would say maybe 5 years, but it's so new. But like, I only say new because in Idaho, it seems like nothing ever changes. So when something does change, it's kind of monumental, I think. So, it seems fairly new, but yeah, you've got to know that as a staff and get that out there. And yeah, there's kind of a lot of rules to it too, right? Someone's got to be the expert on that on your team, you think, and make sure they're watching that. Hopefully your pitching coach.
Well, and this is, baseball coaches are required to put their pitch counts onto max preps. Now, does every team do that? No, but they are supposed to put their players' pitch counts for each game in, and that also helps keep track of it as well. But at max preps, once we get to districts, a lot of coaches stop submitting the scores there because the max preps rankings only apply to the regular season, right?
Yeah.
So once districts, they don't count. So they say, okay, well, we don't have to do it anymore, which is, by the way, why you should continue to go to Idaho Sports over max preps. Cause we have all those district scores. We have it all. We don't stop when the regular season stops. So I don't know. This was the talk. This was the story in East Idaho this week, this pitch count controversy.
Yeah. And hopefully it's a good teachable moment for all of baseball to, know the rules are there. I mean, obviously they know they're there, but people are watching it, and, and it's just, I think hopefully it can go in a positive direction for the baseball as a whole. Is, we got to follow the rules. We got to do what's best for these kids. And hopefully it can just kind of take a positive spin from kind of a bad situation.
Definitely. And I saw this last year, Sean. I broadcast. So every year, IdahoSports.com broadcasts every state baseball tournament, which we're doing again this year as well. But last year, I was at the 1A state tournament in Orofino, and North Star Charter was playing Genesee in the championship. And North Star Charter used a pitcher who had gone over the 100 pitch limit, and Genesee appealed that during the game. Now, Genesee ended up winning the game outright, so it never came into play. But if North Star had won that game, they would have had to have forfeited it, and that's a bummer.
To play the whole game, right? And
that was in the championship. So you always have to be aware of that. And kind of lost in the shuffle of all this is Bonneville getting back to state for the second year in a row. Now, last year, Bonneville came in as the 4 seed at districts, and there were some crazy upsets where it was a 4 versus a 3
in the championship.
In the championship. And now this year they've done it the opposite way. They came in as the favorite, as the 1 seed. They held everybody off. But again, like Pocatello, I think Bonneville faces an uphill climb just because there's a lot of good teams in the Boise area, and Twin Falls also is always so strong.
Yeah, that 4A bracket is just, I don't think there's a bad team, right? You're just, your first round, no one's getting an easy first round, I don't think.
Kind of like 4A basketball this year, right?
Oh yeah. There's not a bad team. You're just, and usually when you get to state, there isn't bad teams, but like on any given day, this team could beat this team when they're just so deep that on those brackets.
Definitely. Well, let's wrap up with the High Country Conference 5A edition. This is District 5 and 6 for 5A baseball. They do the same thing, the 3-game series. So you had Rigby defeat Thunder Ridge in the play-in game 6-5. So Rigby, the 5 seed, got to play top seeded Idaho Falls. Idaho Falls won the series 2-1. Rigby actually stole a win in game 2, but Idaho Falls wins the series 2-1. Then you had number 2 Madison against number 3 Highland, and Highland, the 3 seed, ends up winning that series 2-1. They won the first game 3-0. Madison then won the second game 6-5, and then Highland, I believe, threw a no-hitter and beat Madison 10-0, right?
Yep, that's correct. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, it was a no-hitter the other Saturday, and that was big.
That was huge.
Yeah.
And so what happens here now is that Idaho Falls and Highland both advance to state because District 5 and 6 gets 2 bids to state. They'll still play each other in the best of 3 championship series just for bragging rights, but and that will start tomorrow. But congratulations to both Idaho Falls and Highland for qualifying for state. They were the 2 teams that made it last year at state as well. So,
and Idaho Falls is, they've been a powerhouse in baseball and have won. And again, though, you get some of those boys' schools, it's going to be, I think, tough for either Highland or Idaho Falls. I know they've kind of went back and forth this year, but I find this bracket kind of interesting because you get two reps. I'm surprised it's not an actual bracket to give a team another chance to play for that second spot, but it's kind of interesting to me.
yeah, and like,
because usually if you get 2 reps, you usually have that back draw to make it a true double elimination. And they had one little playing game, kind of an interesting bracket draw series they got going on there.
Yeah, some leagues like the series, some like the bracket. I think logistically the 3-game series is probably a little easier to execute than a multi-day tournament, but
with the weather, yes.
Yeah, definitely with the weather for sure. So that's what's going on in baseball. A lot of teams have already clinched bids, and same with softball. And by the weekend, we'll know everything, which leads me into what next week's Prepcast is going to be. We'll do our live state tournament preview special for state baseball. We did this during basketball season where we did a live stream on Facebook and YouTube, and we took questions from fans and parents and players and brought on the play-by-play broadcasters. We are going to do that again next week, probably Wednesday night. Gotta confirm that officially, so be on the lookout. We'll have an announcement on social media, but we're going to do the live state baseball tournament preview show next week. And then, Sean, if it's all right with you, because I know you've got to get ready for state tennis, so I don't want to bug you too much next week.
Actually, I have people that have qualified already, so yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, so we'll circle back in 2 weeks and do a big spring sports wrap up. That sound okay?
My goodness. Yeah, that'll be great.
We'll talk about all the champions in tennis and track and baseball, softball, and golf, and kind of hit it all in 2 weeks with our spring sports review.
Oh yeah, there's track. There's so many spring sports.
I know it's all in one weekend. So,
and district tracks coming up this weekend, I think, for most schools here in Southeast Idaho. So I think those are going to be pretty exciting as well.
Yes.
District tracks is really fun to get a watching experience. I think those final heats.
Yes. A lot of schools have their conference meets, and then they'll have the district meets. And then, of course, state will be next week as well. So, yeah, Sean, thank you for hopping in and doing this again.
Always. Yeah. I enjoy it. So, I'm ready for the weather to get nice, so I get a little more tan on this, when you guys get to see my face. Just listen to it. Don't watch it. Just listen.
You're right. Yeah. Audio only, IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm excited.
Yep. And good luck the rest of the way in tennis also. So, all right. Thanks for tuning into the East Idaho Prepcast. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.